So you think you're a 90s fan?
The 90s are better, and the 90s are really much better.
Okay, Donald, can you handle this? They were the best of friends. But now, is Donald bluffing, or is he holding a full house? Will Hillary be saved by the bill, or can Donald exploit those not-so-wonder years?
I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
Tonight, Mark and John explain it all, so you won't be clueless.
As if.
We've got all that and more on this special edition of WADR. I love the 90s.
Welcome. You've got mail.
Talk to the hand, sports fans. On this special time-traveling, excellent adventure throwback episode, forget the pre-Y2K flicks, fashions, tunes, and trends. Today we're talking about Donald J. Trump, billionaire, and his totally 90s rhetoric about former President Bill Clinton. The presumptive Republican nominee is, again, escalating his personal attacks on Hillary Clinton by dredging up 20-year-old allegations of sexual misconduct against her husband. Yesterday, Trump tweeted out a video that includes audio from two women who accused Bill Clinton of sexual assault decades ago. And in a recent interview with the Washington Post, Trump joined other fever swamp anti-Clinton conspiracy theorists in calling the 1993 suicide of former White House aide Vince Foster, quote, very fishy. Trump added, quote, there are people who continue to bring it up because they think it was absolutely a murder, end quote. This is, of course, not the first time that Trump has resurfaced controversies from the Clintons' past, so it's not like the media gave it much attention over the past 24 hours. Right?
The presumptive Republican nominee is bringing back old allegations against former President Bill Clinton.
Trump posted a video on Instagram showing Clinton and the White House and featuring the voice of Monica Lewinsky.
And he's also reviving conspiracy theories about the 1993 suicide of Clinton friend Vince Foster, insinuating there may have been foul play.
He's digging all the way back to the 90s in order to escalate his personal attacks against Bill Clinton. Again, Bill, not Hillary, but Bill and his behavior with women.
What he's messaged here is every time you bring up the economy and Bill Clinton, I'm going to turn the conversation to this other thing every single time.
I think we're going to see it all from him, and we, in some sense, have just gotten a peek at where we're going. If we're in the gutter now, by the time this is over, we're going to be in some subterranean sewer because there's nothing he won't say.
So for some time now, the hosts of this show and various guest hosts have been asking whether Trump is going too far with these attacks. And last night, even Bill O'Reilly, who is, of course, no stranger to Clinton bashing, told Trump he should probably ease up. The Donald's answer was, as they like to say in the 90s, as if.
You put up some stuff about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. It's kind of tawdry stuff, and I'm not sure that this is a good thing to do that.
You're talking about what I'm doing? Well, I'm only responding to what they do. They've been nasty. She's been very nasty.
I understand what you're trying to do here is inhibit Mrs. Clinton from attacking you personally by saying, if you play that game, then I can come back 10 times harder. I understand that. But you know that it makes the country look bad abroad and things like that. That's what worries me.
I don't like doing that, but I have no choice. When she hits me on things, I just have no choice, so you have to do it. It's unfair, and, you know, they're dirty players. They've been dirty players historically, and I have to fight back the way I have to fight back.
Mark, there has been a lot of spin about this issue from both sides. So to frame the question before us, we thought we'd call in the lead singer of the 90s rock band, the Spin Doctors.
Mark, John, is Bill Clinton's history during the 90s a pocket full of kryptonite for Hillary?
Is that really the question?
That is really the question. What say you?
This is also complicated because some of the things Donald Trump is going after are perfectly fair game, I think. But a lot of them that he's been targeting are going to get a ton of attention because they involve sex in the Clintons or allegations and conspiracy theories that the internet will go wild on, and cable and broadcast TV can use as an excuse. It's all over the internet. Yeah. So we must stand for truth, and some of these things we must say what Donald Trump's doing he shouldn't be doing. He shouldn't be, just as he shouldn't have been the leader of the birther movement. Then we have to analyze it from the point of view of politics and strategy and tactics. And I have to say, Trump is jamming the system by doing this stuff. He's making it very hard for Hillary Clinton to get up ahead of steam. And there are a lot of voters who are supporting Trump right now. He's in a dead heat after being the leader of the birther movement. So is talking about Vince Foster more disqualifying than being the leader of the birther movement? People who say this is going to cost him the election, I'm not so sure.
I don't think it's disqualifying, but what I think is, it just, again, look, the Vince Foster thing is nuts. And there's no reason that Trump should be trafficking in those conspiracy theories. The Bill Clinton things are real things, and there's an argument that some on the left and some on the right have put forward over years about Hillary Clinton's complicity in that. So that's an issue. I mean, you can discuss it. The question is whether it's effective, right? Trump right now is benefiting from the polling we discussed yesterday in the fact that he's consolidated Republicans and a bunch of independents are, like, I think, parked with him right now. They are still kicking the tires on Donald Trump, right? These arguments do not, I think, for available, persuadable voters, these are not the things that are going to help Trump to eventually become the president of the United States. That's my argument for why this is just dumb politics.
This is his first general election. He's never been a general election candidate before. Does he have a great feel for America? He's got some feel.
He does.
Did he win a lot of votes? He did.
He did.
You know, you cannot, again, leaving aside the repudiation one must engage in about some of the things he's saying, you cannot deny that he has defied people's expectations about what works and what doesn't.
I don't, but the things.
And I will say, a lot of these things are going out to people who care about them, and some voters will just tune it out.
I agree. The things that he's done, though, have been effective. Were effective in a Republican nomination fight. We all acknowledge this is a different electorate, and one of the things that I think the Clintons have known well, and that I think you will agree with, is that the people who win the presidency of the United States win it by talking about the future and not talking about the past.
Well, the Clinton campaign's talking about the past as well. Our next topic also requires a little time travel back to 2006 because the Clinton campaign has released its own blasts from the past, Oppo-fueled video about Donald Trump. It includes audio of the real estate mogul 2 years before the big U.S. financial crash, saying that he kind of hopes the housing bubble will burst so he can make more money. Today, the Clinton campaign dispatched an army of surrogates from some key general election battleground states, including Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan and the mayor of Tampa, Florida, Bob Buckhorn, to hold a conference call with reporters and blitz their respective media markets with criticism of Trump's remarks on the financial crash. Here's how they framed the campaign's talking points on that media call.
It's very clear to me that Donald Trump is only out for himself at the expense of working families here in Tampa, Florida, and across America. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure how you make America great again by rooting for it to fail so that you can make a quick buck.
These are real human beings in real communities that are just trying to get ahead, and they need a president who will root for them, not root against them.
All right. So think about the general election. When it comes to messaging and tactics, this is a very clear example of the kind of asymmetrical warfare we can expect between the Clinton campaign and the Trump campaign, at least for the foreseeable future. Trump tweeted out his video about the 90s, and he got, as you saw, gobs of free airtime, while the better organized Clinton campaign followed a more traditional presidential campaign playbook. You disseminate opposition research, send out a press release or two, post a web video, hold a conference call with the press, and dispatch surrogates with one unified, coordinated message. So, John, is the Clinton campaign going to get a big bang for their buck by using this old model, or is it something that is outdated against the strategies of DJT?
So there's the substance and there's the tactics, and they're both important. The Clinton campaign, as we've discussed on the show, is going to try to turn Donald Trump into Mitt Romney. I don't know how successful that will be.
Heartless businessman, out for his own self, not worried about the little person.
Not on your side, not in it for people like you.
And made gobs of money off.
And made gobs of money, right? But plutocrat, all that stuff. We don't know how much Oppo they have. We don't know what the substance of it is. So we'll reserve judgment, at least I will, on whether it will work or not at this point. But what they have, Trump has a huge advantage in terms of how he plays the free media. What the Clinton campaign has is a huge financial advantage, a huge organizational advantage, a huge targeting advantage to go in the way the Obama campaign did in 12 and the way most modern campaigns would and find the 7 or 8 states that are going to be the swing states and find the swing communities and find the districts and make this stuff, try to make this stuff stick in a targeted way against Trump. I think that is their advantage, just as Trump has another advantage in terms of being able to get all the free media you mentioned.
Go watch the evening newscasts and the morning newscasts in these states. as we're going to try to do,
right,
and see which is going to get more attention. Right. Donald Trump tweeting about Bill Clinton's personal life, or this targeted message about Trump and the housing situation. Right. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I will say the national media will miss at least part of this story.
Yes.
Because it is very hard to track what goes on in these states, and these are targeted messages with a lot of sophistication that eventually will be backed up by direct mail and digital advertising, et cetera, whereas you pointed out, Trump is way behind.
Way behind. And look, this is a place where, you know, the story was in 2012 was missed by a lot of people. The way the Obama campaign gutted Romney in places like Ohio, Florida, Virginia, not North Carolina, but Ohio, Virginia, other places.
It's happening now. We'll see if it works.
Got to watch.
Trump's more formidable on Twitter than Mitt Romney.
Got to watch local media. All right. Our fellow time travelers, we are now back in 2016, happily. Donald J. Trump, billionaire, is out in New Mexico today, where he's holding the first official fundraiser for his general election campaign. Just a couple days back, the New York Times published a story with the headline, "Key GOP donors still deeply resist Donald Trump's candidacy." But now the picture may be changing. Our Bloomberg colleagues, Jennifer Jacobs and Bill Allison, broke the news last night. The New York Jets owner, Woody Johnson, Jeb Bush's former campaign chairman, finance chairman, would be raising money for Trump. And the RNC has this morning announced that Woody Johnson and some of the party's most influential donors will be part of a committee that plans to raise as much as $1 billion for Trump and other Republican candidates for the fall campaign. That list includes a number of former bundlers for Trump's primary rivals, such as Bush, Scott Walker, and Chris Christie, people who raised a lot of money for those folks. So, Mark, you got the Times story, you got this story. Just focusing on today's news, to what extent do you think that today's news suggests that Trump is breaking through what seemed to be the final wall of Republican resistance to his candidacy?
This is a super impressive list of very well-connected bundlers. The Times has a list of people who are well-connected who aren't supporting Trump.
Also impressive.
It parallels the political situation. You got your Romneys, you got your Bushes, who are never Trump, and you got your donors who are in that category. We'll have some people on later in the show, 2 Republicans who represent these same 2 camps. This is an impressive list of people, and this is an establishment list of huge Republican bundlers and supporters.
There's no doubt that it has been staggering to see the way in which elected officials, others in the consultant class, some intellectuals, and now these donors who, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, were never Trump, they're all folding. They're all collapsing. I've been stunned by it, right? It is still the case that Trump has a huge financial hill to climb if he wants to actually raise $1 billion. And even if he gets half of the most impressive donors, he's still missing half. And that other half is going to mean money that's not ultimately coming in the door for him. So let's see how the Paul Singers of the world, the Koch brothers, others, where do they end up? Right now, they're still holding out.
There are some people on this list who I would have sat out the cycle or maybe even been for Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
And Donald Trump is now going to have a party that's pretty unified on the financial side and on the political side, and the recent poll suggests on the voter side. That is quite an achievement in a very short period of time. Paul Manafort and others, Corey Lewandowski, the other people there, and Trump himself deserve a lot of credit. Trump has been charming people in the room. It is an underrated skill of his. It's working with a lot of donors. All right. Speaking of Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee posted another video on social media today. He was defending himself against the criticism that he reportedly hasn't donated as much money to veterans groups as he's claimed. That controversy, though, was nothing compared to the backlash caused by Veterans Affairs Secretary Bob McDonnell after he yesterday compared long waits for veterans' medical care to the lines at Disneyland. After yesterday's WADR, Hillary Clinton's campaign spokesman Brian Fallon told our colleague Kendall Brightman, quote, "We owe our veterans more than the excessive wait times we've seen at the VA," and he said he disagreed with what the secretary had said. This morning, stronger words from House Speaker Paul Ryan, who called McDonnell's comment, quote, "not worthy of the veterans he serves." An interview today with MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell, McDonnell spoke back. He said he was misunderstood, also added that wait times are important, but, quote, "there's more to the veterans' experience than wait times." So, John, did McDonnell's interview with Andrea put this thing to bed, or is this something Republicans are going to continue to talk about, as Trump surely will? I'm
going to be able to save some time on this show, Brett, by very quickly saying no, he has not put it to bed. Other Republicans are calling for his resignation now, and I have to say, I thought that was not even really a really decent apology for what was obviously a gratuitous political misjudgment with what he said the other day. I think probably the guy has to go.
President Obama's approval rating is up, and that is a blessing for Hillary Clinton, who plans to run on his record to some extent, despite her saying she's not running for his third term. But there are still some areas, some in foreign policy, some in domestic policy, and the VA.
It's been a disgrace.
It is a disgrace on the policy grounds, and you could see it out in the stump with any candidate in the Republican race who invoked the problems at the Veterans Administration. Rightfully so. These are heroes who deserve the best possible treatment, not what they've gotten. President Obama has spent time on it. This head of the department has gotten good marks, but he messed up here, and this only is going to make this issue more front and center.
And I'll just say, you know, these people, the wait times are not the totality of their experience, but when they're waiting in line for months and years in some cases, it is the totality of those people's experience with the VA at that moment.
Yep.
And this guy has got to be maximally attentive to those people at all times.
Hillary Clinton is
not dismissive.
Hillary Clinton has very good relationships at the top of the Pentagon. It's going to be fascinating to see one demographic we don't talk enough about: veterans and veterans' families. Let's see how Trump does with them.
All right. Bernie Sanders today asked officials to recanvass vote totals from that very close Kentucky Democratic primary a week ago, and that comes just a day after Hillary Clinton refused to debate Sanders out in California ahead of the primary there. We will talk more about the big-time discord in the Democratic Party after these words from our sponsors. By now, you've probably heard reports that federal authorities are investigating Democratic Virginia Governor Terry McAuliff with an apparent focus, at least in part, on whether donations to his gubernatorial campaign violated the law. They are also reportedly looking at his time as a board member of the Clinton Foundation. Today, McAuliff told reporters he was, quote, shocked by news of the investigation and that it, quote, has nothing to do with the Clinton Foundation. McAuliff is, as many of you know, a longtime ally and fundraiser of the Clintons in like a really, really big way. For those who are not aware of his reputation as the most aggressive buckraker of the modern era, here's how McAuliff described his own modus operandi in a speech back in 1988. God bless C-SPAN for this.
What makes me different in collecting the checks than probably any other candidates, I'm probably a little bit farther over on the spectrum on fundraisers than most of the different fundraisers that are out there, because I will stop at nothing to try and get a check from you. If someone says no to me, I'd say, well, I'd like you to go out and raise $10,000. That's just, to me, the opening gambit of what could be 2 or 3 week process. I love it when people say to me, Terry, I'm not going to give you a check. I hate you. I hate your candidate. Get out of my office. To me, that's just the beginning. I just settle in, ask for the Diet Coke, and we just begin to do the negotiations.
So, Mark, there's a presumption of innocence. We don't know all the details here. It's all kind of murky right now, but we know something's going on. My question for you, on the basis of what we do know, is what is the worst-case scenario for Hillary Clinton in this investigation?
Can't say enough. I've read the stories about this. I've talked to some folks in the party. I don't know what this is about. It certainly has some buzzwords that are bad. Clinton Foundation, Chinese money, right, commingling, tax returns, etc. Right. I will say Terry McAuliff has played politics, as that clip suggested, and fundraising fast and hard, as fast and hard as anybody in the country. He's got a lot of lawyers. I'd be surprised if he broke the law. If, however, this investigation continues, if the other investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails continues, it is just bad news for her, because it takes the symbolism front and center. And also, we got an ally who's the governor of Virginia, a state she is counting on winning to be elected president.
Right. Look, you've got Terry McAuliff is like, that video doesn't even do justice to it. This is a guy, if all you kids at home, you can go look out on the internet and find pictures of Terry McAuliff wrestling an alligator to raise money for Jimmy Carter back in 1980. It's an incredible picture. He pushes everything to the limits. I don't know if he broke the law. I have no idea. But I'll tell you that the second point that you made is really important. He's a huge ally for her in one of the most important swing states in the country. If he's distracted for the next 6 months, that's bad for her. And on top of that, he's being sued right now over this move that he is instituted to try to let felons vote in Virginia, which people see as a political thing. This is all going to get entangled. It could be a real mess for Hillary Clinton politically.
Let me make one more point. Republicans who think the Obama Justice Department is totally politicized, this is an investigation by Democrat on Democrat action, and that is something that don't see in a lot of other countries.
Right.
In an election year, top ally of the party nominee being investigated, whether it goes anywhere or not, is quite something.
By the members of the same party, right?
When we come back, two Republican strategists, two of our favorites, join us to talk about the state of the party's 2016 Unity Project after this quick break.
Our first guest tonight is two guests tonight, and they're chatty, too. Dan Senor, Republican strategist and informal advisor, informal, to House Speaker Paul Ryan, and Kellyanne Conway, Republican strategist and former Ted Cruz super PACer. Thank you both for being here. Kellyanne, we've been talking about the Trump donor score today, or at least the announcement of all these donors who are coming in. How do you do it?
It's impressive. I think Mark's right. He does it through total charm and the fact that he vanquished 16 opponents. I mean, these are businessmen who deal in the free market, and they win.
And women.
And women.
A lot of women on this list.
Yes, that's right. Businessmen and businesswomen, and I think I'll have a very successful first joint outing with the RNC. And the fact that it's a joint outing with the RNC is also important and impressive because it shows the party unity starts at the top.
We should say you're for Trump, and you are not.
I am not.
But
he's not just not for Trump. He's never Trump.
But you acknowledge that this is an impressive list.
It's an impressive list.
I don't want to put too fine a point on this, but shouldn't you give up? If he can put together a list like this, why not say...
It's a necessary but not sufficient list. So let me tell you, I think right now donors fall into basically two categories. Most major donors, including those that fund the super PACs, are just staying out of it. They're either open to funding an independent candidate or they're just going to sit on the sidelines. A lot of that was chronicled in that New York Times article over the weekend by Alex Burns and Jonathan Martin. The other group are people like that who are signing up, and some of them are saying, we're on board, we're going to do work. Others are saying, I don't want to be seen as being disloyal to the party, so I'm giving my name, I'm on board, but I'm actually not going to do real work for either one of two reasons. One, I don't like Trump, or two, he doesn't need my money. Push comes to shove, if this race is truly winnable for Donald Trump in Donald Trump's mind, and he's short on resources, he has the capacity to fund it. Why do these guys need to twist arms raising money?
I want to get to you on that question, but I want you to just update us on where the search for a third candidate stands.
No update.
Is it still alive?
Yes, it's still alive.
Give us some odds.
I would say now the odds are...
Give us some names,
no,
because I think you'll find Amelia Earhart before you find a third-party candidate.
I would say 30 to 40% chance that an independent candidate emerges within the next 3 weeks.
I want to ask this question, though, because we have you guys after the break, and we'll talk about a bunch of things, but we only have about 1 minute right now. But I want to ask you both real quick. If the people in the New York Times list who will never give to Trump or be on the Trump finance team, and then you got these people on this other side, is that enough? Is this enough to get Trump the amount of money that he needs to be competitive?
It's an amazing, impressive start, and I think there's a third category missed in that article and missed in Dan's binary view, which is those who are going to give but have not yet given, who are trying to decide where's the safe, comfortable vehicle to put my cash. Is there a super PAC that already exists that entices me? Is there one that should be created? And that those individuals can hire their own staff. And let's say the magic word here. There are a lot of folks who are #NeverHillary. They're big donors, and they will come off the stump to help the Republican nominee.
So if Singer, Ricketts, the Koch brothers, others, if they all stay off the field, if they hold, will Trump be able to raise enough money to be competitive?
I do not think so. Hillary Clinton's going to raise north of $1 billion. I don't think Donald Trump. I mean, that's a good start, but that is not going to get him a fraction of what Hillary's going to raise. So if you believe you can do what he did in the primary, which is get a ton of earned media and win that way, which I'm skeptical of, then that's one thing. But the idea that he's going to be able to compete on resources this late here we are end of May. This election's in a few months. He's to build a real national finance organization.
All the money that he needed, Romney Ryan had all the money they needed and lost 8 of the 9 swing states.
Guys, got a hard break here. Guys, Dan, Kellyanne, we're not done with you yet, which is why I'm telling you just to quiet down, because we're going to talk to you in a moment right after this.
We're back with two Republican strategists, Kellyanne Conway, who's for Trump, Dan Senor, who is not. Thank you for staying after that. Kellyanne, I'm going to give you some yes-nos. Ready? Was President Obama born in the United States?
Yes.
Did Vince Foster commit suicide?
No. I mean, yes.
Wow. She's really gone Trump.
No.
Yes.
You
have gone Trump.
Excuse me. Yes, he did.
If Donald Trump asked you if he should keep talking about these things like that, would you say yes or no?
I don't think he talks about where President Obama was born. He hasn't done that in quite a few years. And Vince Foster was sort of like a footnote to the real issues of the 1990s, which is he's responding in kind to Hillary Clinton saying he's not good for women. He's a sexist. He's a misogynist. And he's responding in kind.
What does that have to do with saying Vince Foster might not have committed suicide? What's the connection?
What I'm saying is the 1990s, the main thing he's talking about is Bill Clinton and women in the 1990s. Right. And you have a lot of young people now Googling Paula Jones and $850,000. The last time I didn't sexually harass someone in my workplace, I didn't pay them $850,000. So I think what people are going to focus on is that this was a man in power, and he was having affairs with subordinates in the White House and sexually harassing a subordinate. The man lost his law license in the state of Arkansas. He was the governor, and the president lost his license to practice law.
Are you concerned about him going to these places?
Of course. To me, it's ludicrous that we are in 2016, given all the issues facing this country, home and abroad, we are going to have a national election about Bill Clinton in the 1990s. I hope not.
It won't be.
Because if I thought the state of the Republican Party was pathetic, as I do now, it will take it to a whole other level.
But it won't be, Dan.
If the centerpiece of our campaign in the fall is this.
But even Mr. Trump said recently, I just gave a speech on, I believe the speech was about guns in Washington State, and he said nobody covered it. They only covered what I said about Bill Clinton. And that's fair.
Kellyanne, let me ask you this question. These are just a couple facts, right? One of which was that Bill Clinton was impeached over his affair with Monica Lewinsky. These issues were all litigated in the 1990s. By the time he left office, you had Democrats winning in the midterm election in 1998, gaining seats. Almost unprecedented. And then him exiting the office with an approval rating north of 60% after Republicans made a crusade about this. How is it possibly politically savvy to relitigate something that didn't work the first time now and try to relitigate it 20 years later?
Oh, it's totally different now. First of all, John, let me just say for the record, I hope the campaign is fought on issues. But so far, I'm invited on TV every day. Nobody's asked me to compare the health care plans of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So let's be fair. This is what people are covering now. And I think that Donald Trump continues to just steal news cycles away from Hillary Clinton. She's explaining more than she's campaigning. I would ignore Donald Trump if I were Hillary Clinton. Right. They simply cannot afford to. Well, I side with her in the polls. But on your question about comparing, Bill Clinton as a sitting president with a good economy and peace abroad relatively, and now Hillary Clinton, who's not the president, I think it's a really weak response for her today to say, in the 1990s, we, all of a sudden it's the royal we. She's been using her president sparingly yet strategically for a year. It wasn't even in her announcement video. It wasn't even on the stage with her. And yet now it's the royal we. We created 23 million jobs. We reform welfare. People aren't going to buy that. She wasn't the president. She was the president's wife.
The president's motto is, stop us before we cover sex again.
Can I ask you, Kellyanne, a question?
Yeah,
yes.
Please. Oh, please do.
With all due respect.
With all due respect. So listen, I agree that this Trump tactic will jostle the Clinton campaign, which is not nothing, short-term tactically, kind of throw them off, not like kind of entirely understand how to deal with Trump. But honestly, what voters is he appealing to with that message? Maybe consolidating the hard right, which again, if he has to do that in late May, that's problematic, including trying to build a fundraising army in late May. But who's he speaking to with that?
I think several groups. Let me say, I hope eventually he gets her on health care. He gets her on the fact that she's been in public life for 30 years, and she's done nothing to improve the lot of women. She's improved her own lot. She got $21 million in 1 year alone. Mm-hmm. She got millions of dollars to give speeches. She's not even that interesting to listen to. What in the world did they pay for? You can get that for free, and nobody seems to want to listen to it. They want to listen to Donald Trump. So let's force a two-way conversation on abortion. Let's show who's really extreme, who's for partial birth abortion, sex selection abortion. I hope he does all of that.
You think he's going to be able to prosecute that?
No, he's going to be able to do that.
He's got a ridiculous record on abortion.
Let me answer your question. Yeah. There are people, you know what this also does? It reminds people how long the Clintons have been around.
Yeah.
And that's really a not so subtle point here. They've been around so long, and you ask yourself, you're promising to do all these things, Hillary Clinton. What have you done?
Okay,
I will say, hold on one second. I will say, because we didn't book a Democrat in this segment, I'm not here to carry her water, but I think she has done some stuff to help the lives of women.
She ought to talk about it. She said she's talking about it.
Let me ask you this. I want to ask this. Paul Ryan, I have reason to believe he might be on the precipice of endorsing Donald Trump.
I know
what
nothing.
Do you know about that?
I've got nothing to report. I know that just today or in the last 24 hours.
A little smile on your face, though, is conveying a lot of...
No smile. I'm just generally my disposition.
Yeah, you're a happy man. Yeah. So you're very close to him?
Yes.
Will you be disappointed if your friend Paul Ryan endorses Donald Trump? You will be. Are you trying to talk him out of it?
I'm not going to talk about my conversations. I talk with any political leader.
What would be the case?
I think all Republican leaders should think twice about endorsing someone who is trafficked in racism and sexism and misogyny, and is not a conservative.
And he met with him last week, and he said we share a conservative agenda, and he seemed like a really nice guy.
He said that he's a great personality, and they had a good conversation, and yet. He still withheld the endorsement.
Do you die a little bit inside every time one of your friends
endorses? I'm not going to comment on my internal feelings.
I
want to come back to something Kellyanne said.
No, wait.
This is not like Senor on the couch. This is,
It actually is a little bit like that.
When you see Rick Perry, whose views of Donald Trump...
I think it's pathetic.
Whose views of Donald Trump were the same... let me finish.
Yeah.
Rick Perry had the same views as you of Donald Trump. Now Rick Perry has endorsed Donald Trump.
He's used stronger language to me. He called him a cancer on the Republican Party.
Right, so if you feel that that's pathetic on the part of Rick Perry, why would it not be equally pathetic if Paul Ryan were to turn around and endorse Donald Trump?
So Paul's thinking on this, as he's articulated, is he thinks he can actually sway and educate Trump to be a more responsible candidate in the months ahead, which will help House Republicans. If he's able to get Donald Trump to endorse the House Republican agenda and act like an adult, that's his argument. By the way, I'm skeptical.
How do you think Donald Trump's going to react to that kind of paternalistic attitude?
The way
from Paul
he's
Ryan?
reacted all along. However, I give Speaker Ryan a ton of credit. I certainly hope he endorses his party's nominee. And I agree with Speaker Ryan that if you don't like something, anything, instead of just standing outside and stomping your feet and harumphing on the glass, go inside and try to help it.
So can I just the distinction with Rick Perry, this is important because there are more politicians who are like Rick Perry than Paul Ryan. Rick Perry not only called him a cancer on the party and not only endorsed him, but he's basically campaigning to be Trump's vice president. And I think this sort of makes Trump's point. I think Trump has validated his thesis of the race, which is the Republican establishment is craven. They'll do anything for opportunity or anything for fear of missing out.
Oh,
and Rick Perry epitomizes
you got less than 30
that. That's
seconds,
not what
and I don't
Paul
know when
Ryan's
Is
trying
that,
to
is
do.
that true of the 11 million voters who supported Donald Trump?
We got 30 seconds. I don't know when
field?
you'll be back next. We're going to Vegas. We're putting all our money on who for Donald Trump as running mate?
Ooh, I think there's a good shot.
One name.
Who should we put the money on?
I'll go on out on a lark. I'll say Tom Cotton.
Tom Cotton.
Oh, wow.
All the money on your friend.
I'm not putting all the money in.
Who's your money on?
Bob Corker.
Really?
Corker.
Mike Pence. You need a governor who was a congressman.
Corker.
Dan.
Corker.
Never Trump.
And of course, I love Newt. Always Newt.
Always
never Trump. Kellyanne. Trump forever.
I'm always senior. He's going to star in some Hillary ads.
Thank you all.
He just gave Hillary an ad.
When we come back, we're going to head west.
He's going to star in it.
Check in on what's going on with Bernie Sanders. And if you're watching us in Washington, D.C., you can now listen to us on the radio at Bloomberg 99.1 FM. We'll be right back.
Joining us now from Riverside, California, where Bernie Sanders is campaigning today, is NBC's Kelly O'Donnell. And joining us from Washington, our Bloomberg colleague Jennifer Jacobs. Kelly, Jennifer, thank you for coming on the show. Kelly, I want to start with you out in California, my home state. Senator Sanders and his campaign are obviously unhappy that Secretary Clinton has denied them the opportunity to debate in California. It's my understanding that there was an agreement between these two campaigns, and I'm curious why the Sanders campaign is not making more of the fact that she's not just saying no, but that she seems to be actually reneging on a deal.
It's a curious question, John, because it's not the thing we've been hearing Bernie Sanders hammer on. At this point, what he's been saying is that this is the most populous state and that voters here who have seen the debate begin to move toward them, that there really should be a discussion of these issues in the sort of the context of what it means to California. He's speaking right now behind me in the auditorium at this California mission here in Riverside, and there are many people who are outside wrapped around the block who were unable to attend, and we saw volunteers sort of encouraging them to go to the next stop, which is San Bernardino. But Sanders' campaign also has a California ad and is trying to really work this by adding more events and by trying to highlight that difference, that he's here, he wants to talk about these issues. But you're right, he hasn't more pointedly hit Secretary Clinton on this point. He does talk in his remarks day in, day out about the oligarchy that he thinks is something voters, and we can certainly say from talking to Sanders voters, that word, not an everyday word you see in politics, he uses it all the time to suggest the Clintons are a part of that establishment connected to the money in the system, and he is trying to break that with his vision of change in campaign finance and in Wall Street and so forth. But so far, we have not seen him go after Secretary Clinton as hard. I know advisors to Senator Sanders are frustrated that she is not agreeing to this. From the Clinton point of view, they are trying to move on to a general election and not give Sanders another forum, not give him another opportunity to look like he still has a chance in this race. And so by foreclosing that, they hope that voters will see that she is inevitable. Sanders, of course, is trying to build some kind of momentum, get as many delegates and run up the score as much as he can, perhaps even winning in California, which is a goal for this campaign. So you'll see him on the ground here a lot. In the last 48 hours, we've seen them adding events to make that point. John?
Kelly, just one quick follow on the question of Sanders supporters. Totally subjective, I know, but as you've listened to them and talked to them these days, are they looking for unity, or are they looking to bring some barricades with them to Philadelphia?
Well, Well, it's anecdotal, of course, but I talk to them at every event and always raise that issue. And some even bristle at the notion that you would ask them about unity. They're not there yet. Some talk about the fact that their movement has to be respected in a way that they don't feel has been done yet, even though Sanders has been able to get some inroads with respect to the platform at the convention, getting more seats at the table there. But person after person will say to me, eventually they don't see themselves voting for Donald Trump, but they're not really ready to sign on with Clinton yet. There's emotional lag time for many Sanders supporters, especially here in California, where this is really their first chance to see him in person and to sort of feel the experience, feel the burn, they would say. Mark.
Kelly O'Donnell, thank you, Kelly. Jennifer, you broke last night the story of the fact one of the names on this list of Trump supporters, financial supporters, Woody Johnson, who, of course, is a huge fundraiser for Mitt Romney. I'm wondering what your senses of the reaction in the political world is to this list of impressive names of people who are going to help both the RNC and the Trump campaign raise money.
Yeah, there's been a lot of reaction today. I've talked to a lot of operatives and several people within the Trump campaign, and they think that this is a sign that maybe the dam might break, that Trump's fundraising might not be as anemic as some people had predicted, that there will still be top-name Republicans, many Republicans who resist, who hold out on opening their wallets for Donald Trump just because they think he's a menace to the Republic or he's an embarrassment to the GOP or whatever their reasons are. But you've got big names like Woody Johnson and this whole list of 20 that the Republican National Committee and the Trump campaign released today is a who's who list of establishment Republicans. You've got backers of Scott Walker, Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush. I mean, it's an impressive list. It's a variety of people. They have ties to the evangelical world, to Wall Street. It's wide variety, and it does send a signal to people that, hey, you've got this small nucleus that's willing to help raise money for Trump, putting, their names behind Donald Trump. And there are some operatives who think that, the other donors are going to start to fall and start giving money now.
Jennifer, just take me inside the minds of some of these donors. One of the things that we saw in the 2012 cycle was donors who were frustrated, especially ones who gave the super PACs. They gave a bunch of money. They didn't know where the money went. They were going to be more rigorous about their giving in this cycle. So what are they asking from the Trump campaign about how their money is going to get spent, the money that they raise and the money that they spend?
Well, it's interesting. This joint fundraising agreement that the Republican National Committee has gives some of these donors some cover. So even if they don't necessarily adore Donald Trump, they can tell themselves and other people that they're giving money to the Republican National Committee, which will help support local and national GOP as well as the Trump campaign. So that does give them cover. As far as what they're asking for from the Trump campaign, that I am not sure.
Jennifer, right now, a lot of debate about whether Trump's tactics are a good idea or not. What's your sense of whether the Trump campaign thinks things are on track, they have a lot to do, or do you think they've got anything that's dysfunctional right now that needs to be fixed?
No, I think they've got the structure of the campaign right where they want it to be. They've figured out who's on top, who's leading the campaign, who's answering phone calls, who's making decisions for the campaign. They've got a schedule planned out. They've got a policy speech in Nebraska planned. They've got their fundraising schedule plotted out. They've got their first run fundraiser tonight in New Mexico, a second one tomorrow night in California. And they did tell me today, one Trump aide told me that they have already gotten $5 million worth of commitments from these two fundraisers that they're scheduled to hold. So they're very pleased with that. They say that they've had more than 40 people reach out to them saying that they'd like to hold fundraisers in the future. So the Trump aides that I talked today were very, very pleased with where the campaign is going right now.
Kelly, real quick, Sanders' campaign and Hispanic voters in California, are they making progress? I know that's a big target for them.
It is a big target, and one of the things that we find is that Sanders talks about speaking to their issues explicitly in his remarks, trying to make a hold there, and certainly in California with some of the labor overlap that he has had support with the nurses union and so forth. He's trying to make inroads there. We know that for Clinton, she has historically had strength in that area, and that's certainly a target for Sanders and his team.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell, Jennifer Jacobs, thank you. It's a delight to be with you always. When we come back, we will take you to a battleground within a battleground right after this.
If Donald Trump wants to be president, of course, he's going to have to do better in the key swing states than Mitt Romney did 4 years ago. We crunched the numbers. and we think we found the ultimate swing town in the important swing state of Ohio. It's a small village called New Waterford. It's near the state's eastern border. 4 years ago, its voters were split right down the middle. Romney and Obama tied 263 votes each there. So that's where we sent our video auteur, Griffin Hammond, to see what it's like to live in a battleground village in a battleground state.
I've got pictures of when the main street was mud track buggy tracks. I was born at home in New Waterford, 1924.
It's just a really nice, quiet place to live. Great place to raise your kids.
Friendly. You know, you can't go down the street without waving at somebody.
What brings me here to the village of New Waterford is that in 2012, the electorate here was evenly split. 263 votes for Romney to exactly 263 votes for Obama.
That's funny.
We're right in the middle.
Yeah. We don't talk politics. We talk about how we can solve our problems.
There are three things in life you never want to argue about. One is politics, the other is religion, and the other is women.
So perhaps in a battleground state, this is the perfect battleground village. These voters are willing to cross party lines.
You might look at a small village like New Waterford and say, well, we've got to win that type of a mindset to win the whole country, and that's probably absolutely true.
And I don't see either one as a great candidate. If it comes to that, I don't know what I do. Yeah. Honestly, I don't.
Because I know we've always voted one way, and we have now changed the way we vote. Hillary has a long way to go to get me to come back to vote Democrat. Donald has tell it like it is attitude, which you like, but sometimes you don't. So I don't know.
I'm not a hard Democrat, but I've always been registered as a Democrat, but I did register as a Republican so that I could vote against Mr. Trump.
When I look at Trump, I think he has good ideas, but he needs to tone it down and not swear. But some of the things I hear that Trump says, I'm all for. I want people to work, and I don't want all these illegals coming here that are getting, free everything. It's killing our country.
Right now, my thinking is that I'll vote for Trump in 2016, unless some major bombshell happens or that things implode or there's something that comes out or he says something way outrageous.
I'll vote for her before I vote for him.
And of course, her husband was not a good example as a president, as you probably know.
I'll have to stick with the Democratic side of it this time, which, like I say, I'm very flexible on that.
I don't know. I guess there's a lot of good and a lot of bad about each of the candidates, so I don't know what they would have to do to win over the town.
For this community, I think it's like the rest of the country. Jobs are very important. National security is very important. Other than that, I think most people just rather the government stay out of their lives and let them live. And that seems to be the attitude in this area.
That is a town removed from the Northeast, removed from the daily media. I suspect most people aren't watching a lot of cable news chat shows, but it is incredible how this election is going to permeate every town, every city in this country because of the personalities and the media focus.
We've seen some incredible elections in our careers, but we've never seen two candidates as famous as these two candidates and as polarizing as these two candidates. And so, you're going to see a lot of just Democrats and Republicans voting the way they are by their partisan allegiances. But there's also going to be in that middle, given the level of frustration, economic anxiety, there's a bunch of people in the middle who are up for grabs who basically are going to be open to both arguments, and you hear it there in this town.
And you hear in their voices the anguish may be too strong a word, but real searching for people who are just not happy with the two choices, who would prefer at least one choice, a little more inspiration.
Clearly.
Our thanks to the great Griffin Hammond and to the people of New Waterford, Ohio, for chatting with him. We'll be right back.
All right, so I'm like DJ Jazzy Jeff, and you're like the Fresh Prince. Okay, so what do you miss? What do you most miss, Fresh Prince? What do you most miss about the 1990s?
Bell bottoms, are those in the 90s? I don't know. I can't remember anything from the last century.
All right, so
it all melds into one.
One word, 4 syllables. Macarena. Hey, Macarena.
Yeah, that defined a decade.
Totally. All right, BloombergPolitics.com. There's a great story by Tim Jones and Mark Niquette about why some of the biggest unions in this country are not taking sides in the contentious Democratic primary race. Coming up on Bloomberg TV, Emily Chang speaks to CEO and co-founder of 500 Startups about ride-hailing apps, and that's on Bloomberg West. Until tomorrow, sayonara.